Hey y'all, it's Heel Heat time.
Hi everybody and welcome to Heel Heat. My name is George Coles and this is our Wednesday wrestling wrap up. Let's jump right into it with the negatives of the night. First off, from TNA Impact Wrestling, we get a match from Slammiversary Replay with James Storm versus Magnus. Kind of cut up a bit, a little bit of a clip show. I didn't think it was a great match in the first place. I think it's weird a month later to go back into it. I understand why, and if you're not following and you don't get the backstory, basically, Hernandez is signed to a contract with Lucha Underground, and he told TNA he wasn't. Well, TNA started using him. And as you may know, TNA tapes their show weeks ahead of time. So they had to fill the area where they took Hernandez out of the show in order not to get sued. This is what they chose to fill it with this week. I don't know, it just didn't seem... For two guys that have moved on to different feuds and different things, it just didn't seem like it fit, or it didn't seem like it should be something they should use. I would have personally bumped up a match from the next week's show, and then gave myself another week to figure out a replacement on that show. But that's just me. Coming from that, we're going to go into our worst match of the night. Also affected by Hernandez, and the reasoning being is the weird camera angles and the many cuts they had to do. They had a battle royal to determine who would face Ethan Carter III for the TNA title. Drew Galloway wins. Unfortunately, they had to go to a lot of weird camera angles to try and not show Hernandez. We did get to see him a few times in the background. They had to cut several of the eliminations. I'm guessing it's because it's people Hernandez himself either helped eliminate or eliminated his own self. So the whole thing was weird, and I don't know. At one point they went from 10 wrestlers to 3. The whole thing was just a weird and awkward match to have on. And it just, with all the edits, it didn't work out well. Now, coming from that, we're going to go right into our question of the week. The question of the week from last week was, out of all the championships on the 4 shows that air on Wednesday, TNA, Ring of Honor, NXT, and Lucha Underground, what is the best looking belt? Now we got some answers from our friends. First is from Sonny the Green Orc. Coolest belt has to be the Lucha Underground Championship belt. It is very cool. Next up is from our friend Christian. The coolest belt to me is the TNA X Division Championship. The X in the middle and the colors make it a cool belt. I do like the green that they're using now, and I did like how it looks different. Before I thought it was kind of a knockoff of the old Intercontinental belt. I like the old X belt too. My personal favorite on all of the shows is the Ring of Honor television title. I think it has such a unique look to it, and it's not as big and bulky as some of the other titles. I don't know, just to me, it puts Ring of Honor's logo big front and center, shows you what it is, television champion. Just my favorite of all the belts on all the 4 shows, in my opinion. Now, coming off of that, we're going to go into our question of the week for next week, or this week actually. If you could pick one wrestler, and it would have to be the 2 wrestlers you pick, or 2 teams that you pick, have to be on different shows. One-on-one, tag team versus tag team, however you want to slice it. It has to be at least one from each different show. If you can make a dream match out of the 4 rosters that they have, NXT, Lucha Underground, TNA, Ring of Honor, what would your dream match be? Let us know what you think. Hit us up on Facebook. Hit us up on Twitter. Put it down where? Down there in the comments. And make sure you hit like and share as well. Get our word out there for everybody to continue to watch and continue to grow the channel. Now next up, we're going to go into our positives of the night. First, from the land of Ring of Honor, Adam Page versus Matt Sydal. In a very good match, we see an interference from BJ Whitmer, Colby Corino, and ACH all getting involved. Sydal picks up the win. I kind of like the feud and where they're going with the decade. Everybody knows that the payoff's going to be Steve Corino standing up for his son at some point. I like the ACH and Sydal versus the decade. ACH and Sydal standing up for the right way to do things against the decade doing the wrong way to do things. Also from the land of Ring of Honor, Mark Briscoe versus Jay Lethal for the World Television title. Lethal picks up the win. We get all kinds of interference. Donovan Dijak, Jay Diesel, which brings out Jay Briscoe and Roderick Strong to even the odds. Kind of a standoff at the end. I really am enjoying what they've done and what they're continuing to do with the Jay Lethal character. I think he's one of the most compelling wrestlers on all of wrestling right now. He's definitely at the very top of his game and at the very top of Ring of Honor, being both the TV champion and world champion. I mean, it's just impressive what he's doing and how he's continuing to be one of the best, if not the best wrestler in the world. Now, coming from the land of Lucha Underground, the contract signing with Prince Puma and Mil Muerte, a little bit of the same from what we've always seen from contract signings. A little bit different, goes in a darker, more demonic route with Mil Muerte kind of, walking on the side of death, being more evil, kind of very Day of the Dead-ish, very much tapping into that kind of aspect of the Mexican culture, the whole Day of the Dead thing and the whole ceremony, the whole thing with the Disciples of Death, and Katrina, who is absolutely beautiful. I thought this was cool. I thought it was a little bit of a different twist on an age-old concept. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. There's things that have worked in wrestling for years and years because they just work no matter what. Now, do some companies use this formula too much? Like the WWE using the contract signing formula? Yes. When you put a new and innovative spin on it, all it is in its base form is it's a contract signing that ends in a feud. You spin it a little bit differently, give us something a little bit different than we haven't seen before, and you re-energize an age-old concept. Now, coming from that, our promo of the night. Also from the land of Lucha Underground, one of these two guys, or actually both of these guys, one of these guys I've been a fan of for the better part of 20 years, and that's Vampiro. Then we have Vampiro cutting a promo, Pentagon Jr. comes out, riles him up. They talk about Vampiro and his real name, Ian Hodgkinson. He says, Ian Hodgkinson's not going to fight you, Pentagon, and then turns his back, and everybody knows it was coming. He said, because Vampiro's going to fight you. And then Vampiro attacks. Just a nice piece of work between a legend like Vampiro, especially in the Mexican wrestling world, and an up-and-coming superstar and one of the main stars and one of my highlights of all the Lucha Underground roster, Pentagon Jr. I absolutely am enthralled by the guy. I cannot speak 1 ounce of Spanish, and his promos had me hanging on every word. His in-ring, his mannerisms, how he carries himself, his mask, the face paint under the mask, his whole style and his whole gimmick, he carries it so well. He is kind of this generation's Vampiro, and I kind of dig what they're doing with both of these guys. And it's just, I just think it's a credit to Pentagon Jr. that at least a guy like me, who understands no Spanish at all, Pentagon is getting over so well with at least with me, and I know I'm not the only one. I know there's hundreds of other people and thousands and probably millions all over the world that he's getting over with as well. Now, coming from that, our match of the night. This comes from the land of NXT, Sasha Banks versus Charlotte. When these two women put these two women in the ring together, it is always a classic match. It is always a great match. Two of the better women workers in all of North America right now. Absolute talents in the ring. If you haven't seen either one of them work, definitely take your chance to watch something like this. This is an absolute masterpiece. Women's match, man's match. This will hold up against any match you put it against for this year. It's got to be... The two of them together almost reminds me, and I know it's an easy example, of Ricky Steamboat and Ric Flair. Whenever you put Steamboat and Flair, whether it be their first match, their 5th match, their 20th match, you always got an amazing match. Same thing is happening with Sasha Banks and Charlotte. Anytime you put them together, the two of them have an amazing match. They hug afterwards, kind of symbolic of the fact that we seen them on Raw. This was taped before Raw, so I assume they knew they were going, and this would probably be their last NXT match together. But do not be surprised if you don't see Sasha Banks versus Charlotte headline one of the major pay-per-views, whether it be SummerSlam, Survivor Series, Royal Rumble, maybe even WrestleMania. If the minds in the WWE could change that quickly, maybe not this WrestleMania, but I could see them headlining WrestleMania 33. That's how good that they both are. Now, going from that, we're going to go to our show of the week. Drum roll, please. For the second week in a row, Lucha Underground takes a trophy. Like I said, the contract signing was interesting. The Vampiro Pentagon thing was very interesting. The matches they had, Daivari wrestled Bengali into a good match. Sexy Star wrestled twice. First wrestled Aerostar and then wrestled Marty the Moth. Won both matches. Just a good, fun show. Lucha Underground continues to show us that wrestling is the focus. Everything else around it is helped by the wrestling. Storylines are made by the in-ring wrestling. Ultimately, the matches are what draw you in. The storylines draw you into the match keeps you into the show, and the cycle continues. Lucha Underground, 2 weeks in a row, best show of the night. Just been putting on amazing shows, and I don't expect them to stop. And it's a loaded cut. I mean, we have 4 of the best wrestling shows on television all happen on one night, and Lucha Underground shows the other 3 up. That's what they do, as Mark Henry would say. But anyway, basically that's all I have to say about that. My name is George Coles, and this has been another Wednesday Wrestling Wrap-Up.